Michael Frerichs was elected Illinois State Treasurer in November 2014. The Treasurer's Office invests money on behalf of the state and local units of government. Treasurer Frerichs also believes in providing individuals with the tools so that they can invest in themselves, and he does this by encouraging savings plans for college and trade school, increasing financial education among ages, removing barriers to secure retirement, and protecting residents from predatory companies. The Treasurer Office actively manages approximately $28 billion. The investment returns are significant. For every $1 spent to run the office, Mike nets 28 for the state's residents. To give you a little bit of background on Mike, he was born in downstate Gifford and graduated from Yale University. He returned to Champaign County and launched his own technology business. Now, he served on the Champaign County Board and as Champaign County Auditor and was a volunteer firefighter. In 2006, Mike was elected to represent East Central Illinois in the Illinois State Senate, which he did for 8 years. Mike now lives in Champaign with his young daughter, Ella, and please join me in welcoming Illinois State Treasurer Michael Clarence.
Thank you very much. Kate, thank you very much, and thank you everyone who joined us here today for Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month. You know, Kate pointed out in the Treasurer's Office, I'm the Chief Investment Officer for the state of Illinois. We make investments about $28 billion. But more importantly, we help families to invest in themselves, whether it be through a college savings account or for a child with a disability through our new program, ABLE, or a new program we're rolling out now to help people save their money for their own retirement, called Secure Choice. Ultimately, we think that investing in human capital is the best investment we can make in this state. Investing in things like education is something that pays great dividends for years down the road. But I'm excited to be here today, Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month, to shine a spotlight on other people who invested in their communities, whether they invested in their business, they invested in their workforce, they invested in other students in education, made investments in all kinds of fields. We want to put these people today on a pedestal. One, to acknowledge the work they have done, but two, to set an example for young people out there, to see what can be accomplished. And we present people with a variety of backgrounds and walks of life, and I'm so excited and thankful for the help of my advisory task force in help selecting these truly impressive individuals. I look forward to passing out their awards and hearing their stories with you all here today. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Treasurer Frerichs. All right, now we'd like to introduce our keynote speaker for this afternoon. Theresa Ma is the Illinois State Representative in the 2nd District, an area that includes large portions of the Bridgeport, Chinatown, Pilsen, and McKinley Park neighborhoods. As a former senior advisor to Governor Quinn, she gained valuable insight and experience working at all levels on efforts to improve diversity and minority representation in the state government. She has been active with the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights and the Coalition for a Better Chinese American Community. She was instrumental in efforts to increase voter registration and has advocated for community resources. Representative Ma has worked closely with the Asian American Employment Plan Advisory Council and as the Language Access Task Force for the state of Illinois. She serves on the local school council at Kelly High School, where she has been a strong proponent of bilingual education and the pursuit of higher education. Theresa Ma holds a PhD degree in American history from the University of Chicago. A daughter of immigrant parents, she is the first Asian American to serve in the Illinois House of Representatives. So please all join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, State Representative Theresa Ma.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's truly an honor and a pleasure to be here to celebrate Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month with all of you. I'd like to thank our State Treasurer, Mike Frerichs, for hosting this wonderful event, and it's great to see you all here today. It's a great time to be Asian American. This is a time when Asian Americans are the fastest growing population in the state of Illinois, as well as nationwide. Our communities have made tremendous strides politically with Asian Americans elected to all levels of government in our state, from park district to city council to countywide bodies. I see Commissioner Josina Marina here, and she's going to receive an award later in this event. To our state legislature and Congress. We have an Asian American member in both the House and the Senate from Illinois. And in the Illinois General Assembly, where I currently serve as the only Asian American member, we're set to triple our numbers by the time we inaugurate the 101st General Assembly next year. At this year's Winter Olympics, we had an unprecedented number of Asian American participants, including impressive medal recipients like gold medalist Chloe Kim. We had skaters, Nathan Chen, Mirai Nagasu, the Shibutani twin siblings, and many others. In the arts this summer, a lot of people are excited about the release of the first major studio movie with an all-Asian cast. And we have a network sitcom, Fresh Off the Boat, centered around an Asian American family. In Congress, we have the largest contingent members of the Asian American caucus that we've ever seen in our history. And locally, it's great to see Asian American Heritage Month events being hosted by many of our statewide offices and local offices. We have proclamations and resolutions issued by almost every elected body and awards presented to extraordinary members of our communities. These are great strides, and we all certainly inhabit a very different social environment than that of the early 20th century when my grandfather immigrated to this country from China. That was a time when the Chinese Exclusion Act was in effect, and laborers like him were not welcome to this country. They were deported if they were found to have falsified their immigration documents. He and his peers were detained and interrogated at the West Coast Immigration Station at Angel Island, precisely to check to see if documents were false or if they were authentic. Whereas on the East Coast, European immigrants came through Ellis Island and experienced that as a welcoming port of entry, simply as a checkpoint to pass through on their way to their destination in their newfound homeland. Immigrants from Asia were not allowed to naturalize, no matter how long they lived in the country. And in many states, they were prohibited from owning land. They were not allowed to testify against whites, and Asian children were educated in segregated schools. Some of the restrictive laws against Asian Americans began to change in the 20th century, but not before Japanese Americans had to endure mass incarceration and the loss of civil liberties during World War II, when 120,000 Japanese Americans, the majority of them citizens, were locked up in concentration camps. The Chinese Exclusion Act was eventually repealed in 1943, but quotas for immigrants allowed to come from Asian countries remained minuscule, about 100 per group per year, effectively keeping the restrictions in place that began in 1882 with the Chinese Exclusion Act and reinforced in 1917 with the creation of the Asiatic Barred Zone and the 1924 immigration law that effectively restricted all immigrants coming from Asia. In the 1970s, when Asian American members of Congress proposed the first resolution to mark the 1st of May, recognizing Asian American heritage, a resolution that was later signed into law by President Jimmy Carter, the beginning of May was chosen to recognize the arrival of the first Japanese immigrants on May 7th, 1843, as well as the date of the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad, May 10th, 1869. The recognition of Asian American heritage was expanded to a full month in 1990, and the objective was to celebrate culture, traditions, and history of Asian Pacific Americans in the United States. And now we have a lot to celebrate. With dozens of ethnic origins and hundreds of languages, there's a tremendous cultural diversity within this umbrella we call Asian American. And in this country, and especially here in Chicago, which in many ways is a microcosm of the diversity in this country, we have the freedom to celebrate that diversity, to embrace it, and to know that we are contributing to a broad fabric, a rich tapestry of our city, state, and nation. I think of all the amazing cultural traditions, languages, rituals, and celebrations, and it feels great to know that it's an important part of who we are as a country. We're a nation of immigrants, and our diverse stories are what make our country strong. Yet, at this very moment, as we gather to celebrate and recognize the culture, traditions, and history of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, we have to be especially vigilant about remembering our history here in this country and our struggles as a collective people. Let us acknowledge that we celebrate Asian American and Pacific Islander heritage as a collective because of our common experiences in the United States, our history that bonds us together. We may be from India, China, Korea, Malaysia, Japan, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, Bangladesh, the Philippines, or Guam. But as Asian Americans, together, we are more numerous, we are stronger, we have more political clout as a collective. We have common experiences here in the United States which have forged our identities, difficult as they may be to discuss and talk about. Yesterday, May 6th, 2018, was the 136th anniversary of the signing of the Chinese Exclusion Act. I think it's vitally important to remember that date as an integral part of our May Asian American Heritage Month celebrations, along with the arrival of the first Japanese Americans or the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad. We need to make sure that in addition to celebrating our rich cultural heritage of our various communities, we also acknowledge these dark parts of our history through which we had to struggle in order to get where we are today. The Chinese Exclusion Act was the first piece of immigration legislation passed through Congress that specifically listed an ethnic population for exclusion. It was the first of many racist immigration laws that shaped the Asian American population in this country. Not only were Asian immigrants restricted from immigrating, those who were here were not allowed to become citizens and therefore not allowed to vote. My grandfather, who immigrated in 1924 using falsified documents at the time because of the Chinese Exclusion Act, worked menial jobs at restaurants and as seasonal farm labor for 3.5 decades before the laws changed and he was able to pursue citizenship in this country. He had to go through those struggles in order to pave the road for my parents and myself. And yet he, like those like him, were never given the credit or the acknowledgement they deserve for forging those paths in our history. So as we celebrate our respective cultural heritage and our rich ethnic traditions, as we acknowledge the wonderful achievements and the unique contributions from our Asian American communities, let us not forget the everyday people who struggled and toiled anonymously because of the restrictive environments that was part of our past. As we celebrate those who made notable contributions and important achievements, like winning Nobel Prizes or Olympic gold medals, let us also recognize the Filipino farm workers who organized with Cesar Chavez, or the Chinese railroad workers who risked their lives to join the nation by rail and spur the growth of our economy, the Japanese growers who pioneered the agricultural industry in California. Let us recognize the student activists who shut down their university in the 60s in order to demand a School of Ethnic Studies, and recognition in their curriculum that reflected the experiences of their forebears and people from their communities. There are pioneers, excuse me, like Dalip Singh Sound, who was the first Asian American elected to Congress from California, but there were also migrant farm workers, Chinese, Japanese, and Filipino men who made it possible for our agricultural industry to flourish. These are all the achievements of the Asian American and Pacific Islander community. Actually, it's just the tip of the iceberg because, in a short address, it's impossible to acknowledge the breadth and depth of our history. But within that history, it's important to acknowledge the everyday people who are unacknowledged and who are not recognized normally. So as we celebrate this wonderful month of the year where we celebrate our community, let's be sure to acknowledge the full range of experiences, the full breadth of our history, our shared experience as a collective and powerful group, along with the richness of our individual cultural heritages, our traditions and food cultures. And never forget those that came before us and those whose struggles made it possible for us to be where we are today. Thank you.
Thank you again to Representative Ma. She hit a couple great points about what this month represents. And as we do these events throughout the month, it is important to remember and honor that history that we have in this country that has helped foster the sense of innovation, the flavor of what we have, of what we can bring to the table. So thank you for your wonderful words. Thank you. All right, now let's move on to the big event. It's time to honor some incredible members of the Asian American community who have made a difference here in Illinois. And we're going to start now with the Treasurer's Outstanding Service in Business Award. And that is presented to Arun Sampathavibat. Sampathavibat. Did I say?
Sampathavibat.
Sorry about that. Now, although Arun did not plan on a restaurant career, various events in his life led to his present status as one of Chicago's most celebrated restaurateurs. Born and raised in Trang, a southern province in Thailand, Arun grew up on his parents' rubber plantation with his 8 brothers and sisters. He attended Chulalongkorn University and studied in Hamburg, Tokyo, and finally the University of Chicago, where he received a master's degree in political science. In 1985, while working towards a doctorate in Asian affairs, Arun was asked by friends to collaborate on a joint restaurant venture. He accepted the challenge, but at the last minute, they left him on his own, and even though he knew little about business or the food industry, he decided on taking the risk, and the rest is history. The result was Arun's Chicago's 5-star Thai restaurant, which introduced our city to fine Thai cuisine, art, and culture. After 33 years, executive chef Arun continues to own and operate his famous restaurant and recently opened a second locale. He directs all day-to-day operations and sets long-term goals for his business. And in his spare moment, Arun enjoys designing the layout, furnishings, and decorative motifs of his restaurant. And for relaxation, he composes Thai poetry. Chef Arun, please step forward.
Just very briefly, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I have been in restaurant business for 32 years. Hopefully, I must have done something right that I'm still here today. Anyway, it's a great honor, and thank you very much. And then I am here to support all the Asian community. I'm very proud of it. And today is a great celebration of life. Thank you.
All right, and our next award. The Treasurer's Outstanding Commitment and Community Service Award is presented to Clarita Santos. Clarita Santos currently serves as Senior Director of Community Health Initiatives at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois. In that role, she oversees the company's community investments, volunteerism, and community engagement across the state. Since joining Blue Cross Blue Shield 10 years ago, Santos has provided guidance on the allocation of millions of dollars in annual grant funding to community partners, increasing access to care, and reducing health disparities among uninsured and underinsured Illinoisans. Santos has served in the field of public health since 1992 with a particular focus on Asian American health concerns. In 1996, she was one of 5,000 board members of the Asian Health Coalition, a leading nonprofit healthcare organization with an extensive network of community partners at the local and national level. Santos has been widely recognized for her contributions to promoting health in Asian American communities, most recently with the Exemplary Community Service Award from the Asian American Coalition. Accepting on behalf of Clarita Santos is Juan J. Berry.
Good afternoon. I'm Juan J. Berry, and I'm proud to call myself a colleague of Clarita Santos, Blue Cross Blue Shield, as well as a friend. I'm pleased, honored, and humbled to accept this honor on her behalf. I serve as the chairperson of our organization's Asian American Business Resource Group, and I can agree and attest to the contributions that Clarita has made to the Asian American community in Chicago. Clarita is a long-standing advocate for the Asian American community in a role as executive director, so a promotion for her, and very proud to share with you all. As executive director of community affairs, she does oversee Blue Cross Blue Shield Illinois' community investments, volunteerism, and community engagements across Illinois. She really does fulfill our purpose, which is to do everything in our power to serve and support our members through sickness and in health. And she truly does embody that in person and in kind, and I'm really proud of her achievements. As a first-generation Filipino, Clarita's family had migrated to America when her dad joined the Navy in the Philippines. Her experiences led to her work for immigrant and refugee rights and guides her tireless and passionate efforts to ensure that Chicago's leaders work together as a community to address various needs across the Asian American community. Thank you for honoring Clarita's outstanding commitment to community service and her dedication to the Asian community throughout the great state of Illinois.
Our next award, the Treasurer's Commitment in Education Award, is going to be presented to Leo Park. Leo Park is a fine arts teacher at Northside College Preparatory High School in Chicago. In his work as a teacher and conductor, he makes magic happen. He is the orchestra director as well as the beginning, intermediate, concert, and chamber strings instructor. He works with students on all levels, those who have no prior musical training and those who have substantial training, teaching them the power of orchestra collaboration, how to listen, how to respond to peers, and how to practice to gain higher levels of achievement. He has profoundly influenced the school community. He works with students during summer vacation, holiday breaks, before and after school, and on working retreats to help growing young musicians. As a snapshot of his community involvement, Park has founded a nonprofit that leads music immersion days at local elementary schools. In 2016, Mr. Park was chosen to receive the prestigious Golden Apple Award for Excellence in Teaching. Congratulations to Leo Park.
Thank you. Thank you, State Treasurer Frericks, and thank you to the organizers of today's event. I am humbled and honored to be here with all of you to celebrate us, to celebrate who we are and where we came from, to celebrate our cultures and heritages and our achievements as Asian Pacific Islander Americans. I'm a teacher and have been for nearly 20 years. I'm a teacher because of all the teachers who came before me, who inspired me, who engaged me, who looked out for me, who encouraged me, and who ultimately were role models to me. But I almost didn't become a teacher because there seemed to be a very important thing from all of my experiences as a student, learning from all of my incredible teachers, and that one thing was representation. You see, Not a single one of my teachers from kindergarten through graduate school looked like me. Not a single one was of Asian Pacific descent. Today, Asian Pacific Americans make up roughly 2% of the nation's teacher workforce. And while that may seem like a tiny, tiny piece of the pie, our numbers have grown by over 200% over the last 3 decades. In my school building alone, nearly 20% of faculty and staff are of Asian Pacific descent. And our Asian Pacific student population also at nearly 20%. Representation, equal representation. As the American population continues to grow more diverse, so too should representation, not just in education, but in every aspect of American life. I leave you with lyrics from a song entitled Individual, penned by the Boston-based Chinese American singer-songwriter Kevin So. He writes, "I see a white man in the middle, black man left hand, yellow man right. Though they are 3 strong individuals, they'll stand stronger side by side. They'll stand stronger side by side." In these seemingly divisive times, we must repeat that this great nation will thrive on its diversity, and that the continued strength and compassion of this great nation will be predicated on all of us, black, brown, white, yellow, all of us standing side by side. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Our next award, the Treasurer's Outstanding Service and Leadership Award, is presented to Grace Ho. Grace Ho has been the president of Woods Fund Chicago since February 2012, leading a bold grant-making foundation that finds and funds projects that draw on the power of communities to fight the brutality of poverty and structural racism. Her career has been dedicated to systems change improvement through public policy development and implementation, social services provision, community organizing and engagement, and now philanthropy. Prior to joining the Woods Fund, Grace was the Assistant Secretary at the Illinois Department of Human Services, where she was responsible for the oversight of the agency's 6 program areas and served as the Executive Director of the Chinese Mutual Aid Association. Grace is active in many community organizations. She is board chair of the Healthy Communities Foundation, vice chair of Forefront, board member at Chicago Public Media, and at the Greater Chicago Food Depository. Congratulations again to Grace.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Treasurer Ferrix, and for the amazing panel of Asian American Advisory Board members, many of whom I've worked with at different points throughout my career. Bernie, I started actually working in the nonprofit sector under the tutelage of Bernie, and I think that has a lot to do with where I am today, so thank you. I'm definitely in amazing company here with the folks on the panel with me, and we began today with the Pledge of Allegiance, right? And the last words in the Pledge of Allegiance were for the pursuit of liberty and justice for all. And today is definitely a celebration of the accomplishments of the Asian American community and reflecting on the history. But I think it's also important to remember that we live in a time where the pursuit of justice and liberty for all is not a reality. And so while all of us are definitely driven and committed to the vibrancy of the Asian American community, I think that we can all say that we're pursuing equity for all. So it really is a privilege and an honor to be here with all of you and all of you here. So thank you very much.
Now on to our next award. The Treasurer's Outstanding Achievement in Workforce and Labor is presented to Alex Hahn. Alex Hahn currently serves as Vice President of the SEIU Healthcare Illinois and Indiana, the largest local union in the Midwest, representing over 90,000 healthcare and childcare workers. He previously served as Director of Strategic Campaigns and Partnerships and the Child Care and Early Learning Division. Alex has been a union organizer for Local 880 SEIU for almost 20 years. He works with allied unions and community organizations to build a stronger movement for social and economic justice. In his work with SEIU, Alex has helped tens of thousands of workers win a voice on the job, both in Illinois and across the country. He is currently a member of the Board of Directors Chicago Votes Action Fund. Congratulations to Alex Hahn.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm honored to be here today. Thank you to Treasurer Ferrix. Thank you to the Advisory Council who selected me somehow for this award. And I'm so honored to be on this stage with some who I've worked with for years and some leaders who I'm just meeting for the first time today. I'm proud to be here representing over 90,000 workers across the Midwest in SEIU Healthcare, Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, and Kansas. Our members take care of the elderly. Our members teach young children. Our members work in hospitals and nursing homes across the Midwest. And our members represent the diversity of the working class in all of these states and cities. Our members, I've been proud to stand with in fights in their workplaces for higher wages, for better treatment. But I've also been proud to stand with our members as they expand that vision toward their entire community. I also stand here as one of the founding members of the Asian Pacific American Labor Alliance in Illinois, APALA, Illinois, and I've been proud to see both SEIU and APALA stand together to fight against discrimination against our Muslim brothers and sisters, to fight against police brutality and attacks that impact our whole community. I appreciate this award, and thank you again to the Treasurer, to the Advisory Council. Thank you.
And on to our next award. The Treasurer's Commitment as an Elected Official Award is presented to Commissioner Josina Marina. In November 2016, Josina Marina became the first Asian American elected countywide in Cook County when she won election to the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. She currently serves as a chairman of the Industrial Waste and Water Pollution Committee and the Public Information and Education Committee. Commissioner Marina is also heavily involved in community activism. She is the director of the United Congress of Community and Religious Organizations, a multi-ethnic alliance working together across 30 communities in Cook County. She serves on the State of Illinois Racial Profiling and Data Oversight Board, the Asian American Employment Plan Council, and the City of Chicago's Commission on Equity. She also presides on the board of the Woods Funds of Chicago and the Asian American Action Fund of Greater Chicago. Commissioner Morita's extensive human rights and social justice work has been recognized by the Rainbow Push Coalition and the Japanese American Citizens League. She holds a master's degree in urban planning and public policy from the University of Illinois at Chicago and a BA in sociology and international race relations from Pitzer College. Congratulations again to Commissioner Marina.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you to Mike Ferrix and his team, who I love. I consider Mike my state treasurer, but also a friend, although he knows that I dread seeing him at many Chinese New Year events, because what's more exciting than the first Asian American electeds in Cook County? A 6'8" tall guy who speaks fluent Mandarin. He always gets bigger applauses than the rest of us. As a 6th generation Chinese American and a 5th generation Japanese American, I'm proud to be the first Asian American elected to a countywide board here in Cook County. But long before I ever even considered running for office, I fought for Asian American representation and community empowerment here in Illinois. For too long, Asian Americans in Illinois have not received the respect or the representation that we deserve. There is a saying that if you are not at the table, you are on the menu. And for too long, that has been true for Asian Americans. In 2011, I helped draw the state's first 4 Asian American voting rights districts. And I'm so proud that this November, 3 out of those 4 will be held by Asian Americans for the first time. I moved to Chicago in 2002 when we had almost 0 Asian American electeds in any significant policymaking position here in Illinois, to now having Asian Americans at every level of government, from U.S. Senate all the way down to the City Council, and growing every election cycle. This work is not just about us as Asian Americans being elected, but of ensuring that Asian Americans have a voice and a place here in Illinois. And it takes all of us. I'd like to take a minute to recognize a few non-Asian Americans who've been such huge supporters of our community. Keith Kelleher, a former head of SEIU Healthcare. My favorite justice, Justice Cynthia Cobbs. And of course, our treasurer, Mike Frericks. Thank you so much for this award.
And our next award, the Treasurer's Outstanding Achievement in Sportsmanship, is presented to Eugene Honda. Eugene Honda credits his father, a second-generation Japanese American, for setting him on his path with sound advice, which has served him well. No matter what field you go into, if you can speak in public, it'll make you better at your profession. Today, Gene's familiar voice resounds at sports events that include the Chicago White Sox, Chicago Blackhawks, DePaul University, the Big Ten Tournament, Fighting Illini, and the NCAA Final Four. Honda is the only person in the world to have announced at the Major League Baseball World Series, an All-Star Game, NHL, Stanley Cup playoffs, an NCAA Final Four, NCAA Frozen Four, and a world-class marathon. He is also a constant voice on Chicago's PBS station, WTTW, Channel 11, the Big Ten Network, and the Chicago Marathon. Gene graduated from Chicago's Senn High School in 1972. He attended the University of Illinois, graduating in 1978. He is a member of the Triangle Fraternity. He was a teacher for the After School Matters Sports Broadcasting Program at Marie Curie High School for 10 years. In 2008, he was inducted into the Illini Media Alum Hall of Fame. Congratulations again to Gene.
72?
Hey, it was on there. You gotta read it.
You can correct her now if you want.
Not without lying, I'm afraid. Treasurer Frericks, Representative Ma, our MC Kate, honorees, and our distinguished guests. I'd better take this award and run before some of my coworkers question the category of sportsmanship. Sports maybe, but sportsmanship anyway. Thank you very much. But more importantly, thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Thanks to the state of Illinois for taking the time to honor these people who really have done a lot to be able to help the quality of life both in our state and our city. ILL.
I.
Thank you.
I was assuming that's why you chose the orange and blue tie.
Absolutely. You get away with it in this building, why not? Thank you.
Sound advice from your dad right there.
That's quite the ring too. You wear it every day. You've got a box. Back to you.
Congratulations again to all of the awardees. Let's give them one more big round of applause. Before we close today, I'd like to acknowledge and thank several people here. Obviously, we want to acknowledge, again, the Marine Leadership Academy Color Guard team, Marisa Buckheit, State Representative Theresa Ma, and a special thank you to the members of the Treasurer's Asian Pacific Advisory Council. Will all of you guys stand and be recognized, please? Before we retire the colors, we'd like to take a moment of silence, if we can, for all the people affected by the eruption of the Kilauea volcano in Hawaii. Thank you very much. Now, we ask everyone to please stand as we ask the Marine Leadership Academy Color Guard to retire the colors. Thank you everyone for coming, and I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon. It was a pleasure being your MC for the day. Thank you so much.